We are live. Welcome to the Total Fitness Bodybuilding video chat. My name is Lee Hayward, and today I'm going to be hanging out here for the next hour answering questions and topics of discussion related to health and fitness that you guys have. So, as you're popping onto our live stream here today, please feel free to introduce yourself and ask any questions that you may have related to building muscle, losing fat, getting in your best shape, anything at all that you would like to discuss, health and fitness related. Type those questions and topics of discussion into our chat window today, and I'll do the best I can to help you out over the course of our video chat. And again, this is something that I do on a regular basis. Been doing these live Q&A for several years now, and it's a regular part of our Friday live at 5 here on the Total Fitness Bodybuilding YouTube channel. So as you're popping onto our stream, please let me know if this is coming through loud and clear. Introduce yourself and feel free to participate and ask any questions that you may have. We got Lee Dunnigan joining in, coming through loud and clear. Appreciate it, Lee. Glad to have you joining in. Nice to see you again. And he's a regular to our chats. I know pretty much every single week joins in from over in the UK. And this is something we usually get an international audience joining in for these live Q&A, which is really cool. So again, as you're popping on, let me know where you're tuning in from, whereabouts, what corner of the globe are you joining us today? All right, so who else do we have joining in here? Let's see. First of all, I just want to make sure it is coming through on the Total Fitness Bodybuilding YouTube channel. That's where we're streaming from. So just waiting for a few people to pop onto the live stream there now. And we're also streaming from the Total Fitness Bodybuilding Facebook page. All right, so my personal profile as well as the Facebook page as well. And one thing that I did earlier today, something that I've been doing recently, and I found it's been going quite well, is I've been coaching and doing live workouts with one of my newer coaching students. And we did a podcast a while back, Mark King. And Mark has a YouTube channel, and he does a live stream on a regular basis. He has his live, it's kind of like this, but it's a live stream for his community. But he's working on his own personal weight loss journey. So I've been joining Mark for some live workouts, literally teaching him and helping him work out live in real time. And we did a podcast a while back, myself and Mark, and he is a very big man. I mean, and he's lost a lot of weight. We did a podcast there talking about his 886-pound life. And that's, you're hearing that correct. He was at one time 886 pounds. And he's, after getting down to in the low 500s. I believe he mentioned that today, the last he's checked, 503 from 886 down to 503. I mean, an incredible weight loss journey that he's on. And the thing that I really admire is at a stage when most people would give up hope and say, you know, what's the point? I'm too far gone. He's actually reclaiming his life and getting back in shape again, right? I mean, obviously that poses challenges that the average person doesn't have to deal with. I mean, he's still extremely obese, but the fact that he's able to make progress and working out from home with minimal equipment, like focusing on like body weight, resistance bands, simple exercises that can be done at home. And the way I always look at it is, if he can do it, then anybody can do it, right? Progress is always possible regardless of your situation. So that's been inspiring. And I just admire his attitude and his enthusiasm, right, to all this. So if you haven't already done so, I would recommend you check out our podcast that we did, but you can also check out the workout that we did today as well. That's over on Mark's YouTube channel. Who else we have joining in? We've got Robert joining in. Welcome, Robert. Glad to have you joining into our video chat here today as well. And as you're popping on to our live stream, feel free to introduce yourself. Type into the comment section there. If you're watching over on YouTube, you can type into the video chat that's alongside the video stream there, and you can post your questions and topics of discussion there. Or if you're tuning in on Facebook, down below the video, there's going to be just the comment section. And either way, if you type it in on the live chat over on YouTube, or you type it down in the comments there, those questions and comments will come through on my end as well. Most people do join in through YouTube. That's where we tend to get the bulk of our viewers, but I know we do get some people like to pop onto the live stream over on Facebook as well. All right. One thing that I do want to address as well is this coming week, actually this next week, I'm going to be heading to a fitness seminar in Toronto. So I won't be able to make our next live video stream on next Friday. So just kind of giving you a heads up there in advance. There will not be a live Q&A on Friday, next Friday, which happens to be May 2nd, I believe it is, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, May 2nd, we won't be having a live Q&A. But we'll be back to our regularly scheduled program the following week. So just kind of giving the folks a heads up on that one. And I think we had a question come through earlier today. I just want to address this one. Was from Robert about, it was an interesting question that I wanted to talk about. One that a lot of people are sometimes interested in, depending on the sport or activity you're involved with. But it's beetroot supplements. And if you've done any research on this or read up, like beetroot is a common supplement that's kind of has that natural nitric, getting this tongue tied, natural nitric oxide booster. So nitric oxide supplements that can help to increase blood flow and circulation. Beetroot has natural nitrates to have that similar effect. And a lot of people would either eat beets or supplement with beetroot, whether it's beetroot powder or beetroot supplements, to improve blood flow and circulation. And it's been widely used in endurance sports to help improve endurance, because blood flow and circulation. But it has also been used in just bodybuilding and gym sports to improve muscle pump and to aid with the recovery process as well. So this is something that some people like to use it, and it's kind of mixed reviews on it. Like you'll hear some people will use it regularly, beetroot powder, beetroot supplements, and find that it does help to give them a bit more of a pump, if you will. There's indirectly, you can get the actual nitric oxide supplements as well. So you don't need to be using the beetroot, but you can actually use nitric oxide supplements. And that's found in a lot of pre-workout products. They have usually when you get the pre-workout concoctions, it has a bunch of things in there to kind of aid with blood flow and circulation and help with the workouts. So that's something that you can certainly look into it. And it's not a must-have by any stretch of the imagination, but something that you can look into. And I know Robert messaged me earlier today, was asking about supplementing with it in the form of tablet form. Now, I've never personally used the tablets, but I have utilized just real beets. Like I buy whole beets, and either you can buy them raw and cook them yourself, or you can buy them already pre-cooked. I usually go the lazy way, have them pre-cooked, because it's a lot more convenient. And just from using it as another source of a vegetable, I mean, getting that in your diet that way. So looking at natural nutrition, but it does indirectly have that benefit of helping to improve blood flow and circulation as well. It's also good for people who are trying to get their blood pressure under control, because it helps to dilate the blood vessels. So, it's certainly not like a must-have supplement, but it's a nice to have supplement, if you will, to help to improve that. But again, I just wanted to share that and go into a bit more detail, because I know he did send me a message earlier today and we were kind of chatting about it, but it's a lot easier to discuss things like this when you're actually doing a live chat than trying to type this out on your thumbs on a phone in Messenger. All right, who else is joining into our live chat here today? Let's see. We have a smaller than normal turnout today, and I do have to apologize. I was a little late starting the video chat, so that probably threw a few people off, because if came on a few minutes late and said, "Oh, Lee's not here. Maybe there's no video chat today," but there is a video chat. It was just me. I got lost track of time, and because of the lost track of time, I was a few minutes late getting things started here today. Who else we got joining? We got Tim joining in, saying, "Always a good day when Lee's in the building. Time to learn, laugh, and maybe rethink my last cheat meal." Right? That's something we can all relate to. And you know what? When it comes to the cheat meals, there's sometimes a time and a place for them. Sometimes they can actually serve you, but they need to be in moderation. Moderation is the key here. I don't like to have these extreme all or nothing, like, hey, you're never allowed to have a cheat meal, you're never allowed to have this or whatever, because when you put these restrictions and rules, it makes it unenjoyable, unsustainable. But when you can kind of have a bit of moderation in there, and there are times when not so good food can actually be advantageous. And I'll give you a prime example of that. Like right now, I'm doing more cycling training. Now that spring is here and I want to get ready for some of our spring races that are coming up. I compete in local cycling events now. So we've got a couple races coming up now in June that I want to compete in. And when I'm doing longer cycling training, like especially when you're fueling for a race or a long sportive ride or something like that, during those rides, when you're burning a lot of calories, having some not so good food, if you will, can actually be advantageous in those situations. Like things that would be classified as simple carbs, fast digesting carbs, even processed carbohydrates like the low fiber processed simple carbs can actually be advantageous in those situations. And the trick with it is, though, you want to use them when you need them and then turn it off or not consume them when you don't need it. And this can be challenging. And I was actually having a conversation with some of my coaching students today about this. It can be challenging to learn how to use those foods when they can actually serve you, and then have the discipline and the self-control to not eat them when they're not serving you. So in my situation, like when I'm on a big bike ride, especially if it's a multi-hour ride, like during that ride, I'll be having energy bars, and sometimes we'll even stop in, like maybe have a coffee stop, and I'll have like a coffee and a pastry or something like that to get those simple carbs in during that ride. But I find like that actually helps to fuel and keep the energy high, keep the blood sugar high when you're burning those calories. But then as soon as that is over and you get back to normal life, normal calorie burning, you have to be able to turn that off. Because the common mistake that a lot of endurance athletes make is they think, because I'm burning so many calories while I'm active, I can eat whatever I want. And that's a mistake, right? Because very often what ends up happening is, yeah, while you're active, you're burning a ton of calories. But then when you're having those rest days, you're not burning the calories. And that extra simple sugars, that extra carbohydrates, that extra food that you don't need, it gets stored as body fat. And that's where it can get tricky. And that's where a lot of people find themselves stuck in a rut. Like, hey, I'm doing a lot of exercise, I'm working hard, I'm training hard. Why am I not losing body fat? Again, you can't outtrain a poor diet, right? So that comes down, and that's something that I have to be mindful of myself, because I've been guilty of that, right? Falling into the slippery trap of having too many cheat meals and having to rethink them, as Tim mentioned earlier. But I just wanted to share that, because a lot of times people have this all or nothing approach. They're thinking, like foods are good, bad, and it's not really good or bad. It depends on the context, because what could be considered a bad food might be an ideal food in a certain context. Who else we got joining in? Let's see. We got AJ joining in. Welcome, AJ. Glad to have you joining in. We've got John joining in from Topsail Beach. Awesome. Just down the road. Okay. Beautiful afternoon to be down on Topsail Beach. Well done. And I'm in Chamberlain, so I'm just like the next community up, right? So John's just down over the hill on the beach, enjoying the weather. Good for you. Who else we got joining in? We got Neil joining in. It says, hello, Lee. I noticed that I hunched my shoulders forward when I'm at rest or not aware of it. I've had neck pain when I look to the left and right with bad posture, even shoulder pain. What's your take on dealing with hunched forward shoulders? Great question. And you know what? I think if we are, as I'm answering this question, I want to sit up tall in my chair, because you're bringing it to my conscious awareness here. I think we've all been guilty of that at some point or another. And what often happens is, like, we're working on the computer or you're on your phone or whatever, and your head's down and you slunch forward, and that can cause that hunched over posture. So being consciously aware of it and trying to keep that front and center in your mind, or even mentioning it to friends and family. So like, hey, if they catch you slouching over, they can kind of give you a little elbow, a little nudge, and say, hey, straighten up, good posture, chest up, shoulders back, to kind of remind you. And having that constant reminder will help. Also, another big thing is your setup. So if you're working at a desk, working on a computer, try and set it up so that your monitor or your computer is high so that you're not looking down on it. Ideally, you're looking straight ahead towards it because that'll help to keep your posture up. I had to adjust my setup here for my home office because I had it where my chair and desk setup was, the chair was higher and the desk was lower. And I found I was slouching over more, looking down at the computer and subconsciously having that poor hunched over posture. And of course, when you get caught up in your work, you're not thinking about your posture. You're too busy doing work or whatever it is that you're working on, right? So it's such a subtle thing, but it compounds over time. And in the moment, it's not going to make a difference. Like if you have good posture today or you have bad posture today, it's probably not going to make a big difference in the short term, but it compounds. So like if you're doing this day after day, week after week, month after month, and year after year, then that's when it really starts to compound. So we need to be aware of it and try and make those changes initially and have them stick so that it becomes a long-term habit. So that's one thing. Your setup, your work setup, especially try and, if you can, have your monitor high so that you're looking straight at it and not looking down at it. That will go a long way. If you have a standing desk available, that's another great option. Just get off your ass from time to time and straighten up. But when it comes to actual exercises, one thing that I always focus on with my coaching students is focus on prioritizing rear delts, upper back. Like, never neglect those. Those are some of the most neglected muscle groups, especially amongst novices, because they're kind of like out of sight, out of mind, and they're not show-off muscles. Like when most guys go to the gym, they think, hey, I want a big chest, I want big arms, I want six-pack abs, and, it's chest, arms, and abs, chest, arms, and abs. Because that's what you see when you look in the mirror. When you see, the typical men's health cover model, the beach body physique. What is it? It's chest, arms, and abs. You're always seeing just the front of the body, but what's going on in the back? What's going on in the back of the body? And if you overdevelop, the chest and the arms and the shoulders and stuff and have that hunched over, that can lead to this imbalance. So we want to prioritize working the rear delts and upper back. Things like rear delt work, rear delt flies, whether that's with machines, dumbbells, resistance bands, cables, all kinds of different upper back rear delt work, right? Prioritize that. You can even do it at home with simple stuff. Like if you have resistance bands, doing like band pull aparts with resistance bands, face pulls, exercises like that can really help. Other things too is neck rotations. Like this is something that I never, honestly, when I go to the gym, I never see anybody doing this, but it's so important is to work your neck. Now, I like to do it throughout the day, but if you have any neck or shoulder problems right now, this is something you should be doing not only throughout the day, but as part of your pre-workout warm-up routine. And it could be just neck rotation. So neck rotation up and down, and just a slow, deliberate going through that full range of motion. Really feeling the stretch as you lift your head up, and as you lower chin to chest, really feel the back of the neck stretch out. And then you can do it side to side. So slow and deliberate, right? Nice, and just feel that stretch and on each side, right? Feel that stretch. And then you can go ear to shoulder and just nice and slow and really try and feel that stretch. So you're going to be like contracting one side and stretching the other side, and do that for at least 10 rotations each. So 10 rotations up and down, 10 rotations side to side, 10 rotation ear to shoulder. That will really help to loosen this up. And this is something you can even do throughout the day, especially if you have any neck or tightness, neck tightness, I should say. Like while you're at work, you could be doing this. If you're traveling, you could do this. Like if you're on an airplane or you're even on a road trip or something like that, anytime, you could be just, every half hour or so, just go through those neck rotations. And it's going to make such a big difference because it's going to help to stretch those muscles and it's going to alleviate some of the tension, but it's also going to just help improve blood flow and circulation. Because most people, they don't consciously do any active movement with their neck other than just day-to-day stuff, but it's not taking it through a full range of motion, where you're really exaggerating those movement patterns, right? Up and down. But by doing that, that's really going to help. So that's something that you can do. Another one that's really good to help align the spine, especially if you have I'm going to show you this from the side. You literally like just try to push your head back. So it's almost like a chicken dance, if you will, but you're trying to keep your head aligned, but push it straight back. And this is really good for the to aligning the spine and helping to decompress some of the nerves that run down through the back of the neck. This is one that I actually had to do. I had a nerve impingement in my neck, and that was one of the exercises that I did to help alleviate it. And I made a video about this. It was a few years back now, but how I found out that I had the nerve impingement in my neck was I had unexplained finger pain. Like just out of the blue, my index finger on my right hand was just went numb. Like it was so weird. Like it just was fine, fine, fine. And then what the heck is like, that pins and needles feeling you get, like it's almost like you just gone to sleep, and just that dull, achy pins and needles feeling. I just got it and it wouldn't ease up. So it was like 24/7 pins and needles, and it was only in my index finger on my right hand. And I was like, this is so weird. And I was trying to figure out what if I got done. Finally, I went to the doctor and explained my situation. He said, you've got a nerve impingement, because like all the nerves run down through the neck and they run into your extremities, right to your fingers and your toes. And sometimes when you get these weird unexplained aches and pains, the root cause is nothing to do with the hand itself. Because I was thinking, I got to stretch and work my hands or whatever. It wasn't the hands. It was an impingement in my neck. And once I started doing these neck exercises that I was telling you about and doing them regularly, like within a couple weeks, I relieved that nerve impingement in the neck and the pain went away in my hand. It was crazy. So this is some of the stuff that I did. And I actually made a video talking about that. And I'm going to share it. It's up on YouTube. But if you do, I think they search for Lee Hayward finger pain. It's probably going to come up there. Let's see if I can find that one. The video title is Unexplained Hand and Finger Pain, Nerve Impingement. It's an older video, but I'm going to share it because this is one where I explain those exercises in more detail, and I think you'll find it quite helpful. And anyone who has postural issues, this is something that you could certainly check out. So, nerve impingement video. I'll just call it that and type it into the chat window. All right, who else? So again, that was for Neil's question there about the hunched shoulders and the neck pain. So again, hopefully check that video out, and I think that will certainly help you with alleviating that. Who else we got joining in? We've got Darren joining in. Good day, Darren, from Australia. Gotta love the kangaroo emoji there. I would love to visit Australia. I've never been there, but that's somewhere it's on the bucket list of places to visit for sure. Let's see. We got Brian joining in. He says, I'm fighting to stay pit the gym for 2 days minimum to focus on recovery and weight gain. What should I be chomping down on for the next 2 to 3 days? I'm fighting to stay pit the gym. Fighting to stay pit the gym for 2 days minimum to focus on recovery and weight. I'm not. Elaborate on that, Brian. Please, if you're still watching this right now and you're still there, just in the chat window, elaborate on what it is that you're fighting for here. I want some more context on what's going on here, right? Because I know, we're friends on Facebook and I follow along with your progress and stuff, but I'm not exactly sure what you're asking here. So if you're still there listening in live, please feel free to elaborate on that one. All right, and any other questions coming through here? All right, again, for those of you who are just joining in live right now, welcome to the video chat. And like I say, I'm going to be hanging out here answering questions and topics of discussion that you have related to health and fitness, whether that is building muscle, losing fat, any specific challenges when it comes to your workouts, your nutrition, supplementation. Feel free to type those questions and topics of discussion into our chat window, and I'll do the best I can to help you out over the course of our video chat here today. All right. One thing I wanted to touch on too as well, I have a new podcast coming out that's in the works. The podcast has already been recorded. I just need to edit it and get it uploaded. So I'll have that up for next week. But it's one that dives into training specifically and how to progress from beginner to intermediate and then ultimately to advanced training. And I think this will be very helpful for a lot of people who are into the fitness world. You're beyond that initial phase of eat right and exercise, and you want to take it to the next level. And that's what this is all about, is a podcast dedicated to progression with your training and how to take things to the next level. Because one of the common drawbacks that I find in the fitness space is, like, a lot of people say, okay, I got to do something, right? I got to start exercising. I got to take care of myself. I got to start eating better. I got to start doing something. And then when you start asking for advice, like, for example, if you went to your doctor and said, hey, like, what should I do as far as exercise? They're going to say, just do anything. Something's better than nothing. And that's very vague. It's true to a certain degree, but it's very vague. Like, if somebody just says, hey, just do anything, like go for a walk, just get some work in the garden, get some chores and get your 10,000 steps, just move more. The problem with that is, even though you can make some initial progress from just simply moving more, you're going to quickly plateau if there's no structure or built-in progression. Like, simply moving more doesn't give you any progressive overload or structure to it. So you need to have a system in place of how you're going to implement that progressive overload, how you're going to plan that out, how you're going to structure it, how you're going to balance strength and conditioning and cardiovascular training, so that you build up muscle and you also improve your VO2 max and improve your overall health and wellness in the process. So that's what we really dove into with this podcast. And again, I'm going to have that uploaded now. It'll be the next episode on the Total Fitness Bodybuilding podcast, something you can look forward to coming early next week. And joining me for that one was my co-host, Jeff Samatero. And I really like sharing Jeff's experience, because he has gone through this whole journey as a whole product of, within the last 5 to 6 years, went from like totally out of shape to now in a more advanced stage of training, like doing some advanced calisthenics and body weight exercises now that are even, I'm looking at it in awe. Like, he's doing stuff that I can't do, like muscle ups on gymnastic rings and all kinds of different, advanced body weight exercises that I'm jealous, right? But he's went from like totally out of shape to now at high level with his own personal fitness in just a matter of like the last 6 years, which in the greater scheme of things, like 6 years, I know some people say, oh my God, 6 years, that's a long time. Like, 6 years is a blink of an eye. Like, that's nothing. Like, the older you get, the faster time goes. And when I look back at it now, like, again, 6 years, like, that's going to fly by. So the fact that you can go from like bare bones beginner to doing some advanced high level exercises over the course of a short time span like that, I find that very exciting and motivating. And again, we're going to share that in this podcast. All right. Who else we got joining in there today? Any other questions? We have, unless there's something wrong with my end and things are not coming through, there doesn't seem to be a whole lot of interaction. Now, that could be a glitch on the computer side, because I've had it before where I've did live Q&A, and for some reason the comments and questions are not coming through in real time. So I do apologize if you've posted a question and I haven't seen it yet, but it's not coming through on my end, even though we do have several people joining in right now. I'm just going to pop over onto the YouTube channel and see if it is coming through on there, because I have a software that I'm using to stream these videos that normally show the video chat in real time, but it's much slower today than it is on normal weeks. Let's see. Try to open that up. No, it's not coming through. That's weird. All right. Well, maybe that's all the questions we have. I mean, if there's not a lot of questions in Q&A, I have no problem ending the video short, right? I mean, like I say, we've been going for a half hour. I normally go for at least an hour or more, but if this is all people want to chat, that's totally fine with me. I'm not going to stretch it out if it's not necessary. All right. And again, I'm going to message Brian there, because I was asking about his question earlier, but I guess Brian's not joining us now. He must be offline, or something's gone away. All right. Folks, anything else there? Oh, Brian's there. Okay, Brian, I asked you to explain what did you mean by this? Like you say you're fighting to stay fit the gym for 2 days minimum to focus on recovery and weight gain. What should I be chomping down on in the next 2 to 3 days? What can you explain what you're talking about there? Like, I don't understand what stay pit to the gym. I mean, if that is a typo, and what are we focusing on recovery and weight gain? Like, did you injure yourself or what happened? Right? Oh, stay out. Okay. You're fighting to stay out of the gym for 2 days minimum to focus on recovery. What should I be chomping down on? Uh, okay, so I think I got it more now. This is a common scenario for people who are very motivated for working out. All right. Like sometimes, and I've been guilty of this myself when I was, especially in my teenage years, early 20s, just full of piss and vinegar and was almost addicted to working out. And I actually went through a phase in my training where I was working out every single day, sometimes for 2+ hours a day, just because I loved it. Like I just loved working out. I love being in the gym. And ironically, what was happening is I wasn't making progress, even though I was investing all this time. And this is something that we actually covered within our podcast that I mentioned earlier that's going to be posted up this week, but I'll just kind of share it here. What often happens is you end up overtraining because you're hitting the gym again before your body is fully rested and recovered and ready to train and ready to make progress. And in fact, I'm just going to share my screen. Just give me a moment here, guys. I have a few slides that I want to share with this because this is a good topic, right? One that I think a lot of people will be able to relate to. All right, right here. Just give me a moment here. Now I'm just going to pop up the screen share right here. That should be popping up. Let me know if that is coming through on your end. Hopefully it is. So right here, this is the general workout recovery cycle. So you start off on baseline and then you do your workout. And while you're in the gym working out, you're not building muscle or getting stronger when you're in the gym. In fact, you go to the gym, you're breaking the muscles down. You're actually getting weaker. So that the whole training stimulus, that is the workout itself. But during that workout, you're breaking the body down. You're going into a state of fatigue, breaking down the muscle tissue. But that is providing the stimulus that your body needs to then go through the whole recovery process. And eventually it comes up here to the super compensation. So once your body has rested and recovered, then it grows. And every training cycle goes through that. You break down the muscle, you stimulate it, then you got to let it rest, recover, and then it grows. And when you're in this super compensation phase up here, this is the time when you want to focus on doing your next workout. Sometime within this window when your body's in that super compensated phase, so you're actually above your current baseline, and do your next workout so that you can stimulate growth and make progress. A problem that a lot of people make is if they're too eager to work out, they work out while their body's still in the recovery phase. And then instead of getting stronger with each workout, you're kind of like digging yourself into a hole and you're getting weaker with each workout, right? So again, just to kind of show a perspective of this would be a case of overtraining right here. This would be you're working out before your body's ready to. So instead of getting stronger with each workout, you're literally getting weaker with each workout because you're hitting the gym too frequently. You're not allowing that full rest, recover, and grow cycle to happen. So you train, you stimulate, you break the muscles down, you're in the recovery phase, and then you train again while your body's not fully recovered, not super compensated. So you're actually starting from below your baseline, and then you break it down even further. And then if you train too soon, you're starting below your baseline, you break it down even further. So it's like you're digging yourself into a rut. And then over time, you're not getting stronger, you're actually getting weaker, right? Now, the simple solution here is you want to switch it up so that instead of training too soon, you're giving yourself adequate time so that you're starting above baseline. You're in that super compensation phase. Then you do your next training session where you break down the muscle, you fatigue it, but then you recover, super compensate, and then train again. But over time, when you do it right and you time the workouts properly, you will get stronger and build over time. This is what we want, right? So this is a common mistake a lot of people make. And to kind of show the difference, if you work out before your body's ready, you're going to overtrain and burn out. If you time it just right and allow for adequate rest, recovery, and growth, you're actually going to get stronger over time. And this is something that, again, a lot of people really mess up. And I was guilty of this, right? I was guilty of that myself. And I ended up in that overtraining rut. And what I found really helped me was I got out of that mindset. Like I was talking to some more advanced bodybuilders and doing my own research. And I finally cut back on the frequency of my workouts. So instead of working out every day or 6 days a week, I cut back to every other day. Or 3 days a week, that it worked out to that. And that alone, that one switch from trying to work out 6 days a week to every other day, it was like a night and day game changer, because now I was allowing the full cycle of rest, recover, and grow in between each workout. And then I was actually able to go to the gym feeling stronger. I was able to lift heavier, push myself harder, and get more quality versus just putting in volume, like just going through the motions. And this is truly working smarter, not harder, because I literally cut the workouts in half, but I got better quality workouts. And it was only once I started cutting back to every other day that I made my best gains. And I think a lot of people are probably guilty of that, especially, if people who are really motivated, really hungry, very high energy people, they just love to work out. They love to go to the gym. This can be a real issue. Now, we have other people who have the personality where they're not that high energy. They're more on the lazy side, and they're like, it's a struggle to get themselves to the gym 2 to 3 days a week. And whereas other people, they're the complete opposite. Like, it's a struggle to stay out of the gym enough. And I think in Brian's case, he's the one where he's struggling, to stay out of the gym, right? Because as he mentioned there, like he's fighting to stay out of the gym for 2 days. Now, again, I don't know your current situation or whatever, but a good guideline for most people, work out every second day, right? Like every other day should be a good guideline. And if you're really motivated and find it hard to stay out of the gym, you can give yourself some active recovery workouts to do. And this is what I do personally, because I still have that tendency where I like to train. I just enjoy it. But what I do now is I alternate high intensity workouts with low intensity workouts. So for me, it's usually like a high intensity weight training workout one day, and then it might be a low intensity cardio session the next. And by doing so, I'm able to satisfy that urge or that desire to exercise, but I'm doing so with a complementary form of exercise. And it's not a stressful form. Like when I do that low intensity cardio, I'm not breaking down the central nervous system. I'm not stressing the body. I'm not going into a deep state of fatigue. It's actually just gentle movement, low intensity cardio, and it's active recovery. And you can do that and still get away with it. And that's actually a better form of recovery sometimes than just doing nothing at all. So for those of you who really crave exercise and crave going to the gym, try doing that. High intensity weight training one day and then low intensity cardio the next. This will allow you to satisfy that desire to exercise on a regular basis, but allow your body to recover. And even if you are going to do some strength training exercises, there's other things that you can do to focus on low intensity. So very often, if I just have that desire, like, hey, I want to work out, but I'm not feeling fully recovered from the last session and I need to take it easy, I might just go in there and do some mobility work, do some stabilization exercise, some flexibility work, just light movements, choose easier exercise variations and not stressing the body, but focusing on that active recovery. And again, it satisfies that desire to get off my ass and move, but it's not breaking the body down. It's actually aiding with the recovery. So those are some things that I do myself, but I can totally appreciate where you're coming from with, having that, I just got to work out, right? I just got to work out. Like some people we're buggers for punishment. Like it's an addiction in a way, or I don't know if addiction's the right word, but it's a passion where you just, you want it. Like you want to work out, you enjoy it. And sometimes that can lead to the overtraining where you're just doing it too much. And again, going back to those charts that I mentioned there, right? This is key. Like, this is something I want to just share my screen again. You really want to get this, understand this process. Like, when you're doing your workouts, you go to the gym, you're breaking your muscles down. The muscles are getting weaker, they're getting damaged. But that provides the stimulation then to allow the rest and recovery and the growth, which is the super compensation. So you want to be doing your workouts when you're in that super compensated phase, not when you're still in the recovery phase. Now, another mistake I should point out as well, this is a common one. If you wait too long between training sessions, this can often happen where you train, you stimulate your muscles, and then they super compensate, they grow. But then if you wait too long, you return to baseline, so you don't really make any gains. And then if you do your next workout, you'll go through the whole process again. But if you wait too long, you won't make any gains. This is basically like a plateau or a maintenance program. Now, it's not necessarily a bad thing, because there are times when you maybe just want to maintain. Like, if you're really busy and you don't have time to train, like maybe you can only get to the gym once or twice a week, you could probably follow this and maintain your current level of strength and current level of development, which is better than regressing and letting yourself deteriorate and go downhill, but it's not productive. You can also use maintenance training if you're like for an athlete who's focusing on other aspects of fitness. For example, like if an athlete is, let's just say you got a football player who in the off season, they do a lot of heavy strength training to build up muscle, but then when they're in their competitive season, they may want to back off the strength training to a maintenance phase, kind of like this, but then prioritize the actual skills practice and the competition, so that they're going to dedicate more of their recovery towards that. So they just want to kind of put the weight training on a maintenance program so they don't lose any strength while they focus on building up their skills and other aspects of fitness. So maintenance can be advantageous if it's used properly and it's used in context to your ultimate training goals. But this is a common scenario too, when people are working out consistently but not making progress. Maybe they're allowing too big of a gap between those workouts. They're not training frequently enough to actually allow the body to super compensate and grow. So the ideal scenario is to do those workouts right in this window up here, right? When you're in that super compensated phase, not wait until it goes down to baseline again, and not waiting while you're still in the recovery phase and you're not fully rested. And how you can tell, because a lot of people say, okay, that makes sense, but how do I know? How do I know if I'm well rested? How do I know if I'm super compensated or if whatever? Ultimately comes down to your progress. Are you getting bigger? Are you getting stronger? Are you seeing progress over time? If you're making progress, then what you're doing is working, right? That's the bottom line. But there are some signals that you can look out for. So for example, if you're feeling extra tired, extra sore, you may be overtraining. Like if your body is physically tired and sore, and then you try to go to the gym again and train while you're still in that state of feeling tired and sore, obviously you're not rested and recovered. So you're probably not going to be making the most of that workout. And it could be a junk workout where you're actually breaking your body and digging it and breaking it down further and digging yourself into a rut. So you want to make sure that you're feeling good for each workout. But you don't want to get to the point where you're feeling too fresh and too recovered. So you let that whole curve happen, and now you're back to baseline, and then you do your next workout. There's a sweet spot where you've overcompensated, but you're not letting yourself lose your edge again. So there's that sweet spot. And for most people, every other day, 3 days a week is probably like a good benchmark for 80%. 80% of the population could make really good gains training 3 days a week. Some people who are more advanced and have higher recovery capabilities could probably get away with 4 days a week or more frequent. Some people who have lower recovery rates or very physically demanding jobs and other forms of stress, they might get away with 2 days a week, but it's somewhere in that range. But for most people, this whole idea of training every day, that's usually going to be junk volume, meaning that you're going to be digging yourself into a rut and getting weaker over time. So hopefully that was helpful. I mean, and this is stuff that we went into a lot of detail in our most recent podcast episode. So when that comes out, make sure to check that out. Let's see what else we got there. Can you send me those graphs? Please. I could, yeah, for sure. I can. I'll just message him to you if you want. Right? I mean, you can watch the replay, obviously, to still see it there, but it just kind of puts a visual to what it is, and realize like this isn't set in stone. I just made those graphs as a to help put a visual to what I'm explaining here. Your actual recovery time will vary from person to person. Like it depends on your individual fitness level, how hard you're training. Like there's a lot of different variables, but again, for 80% of the population, every other day, 3 days a week, that's probably going to work for most people. Okay. All right, what else we got there? Let's see. We have Jeff joining in. Says, I work second shift. Is it better to work out late at night, 11 p.m. for me, or morning workouts? That's a personal question. I'll kind of discuss both options, and it really depends. When do you feel you're strongest, and what's the most convenient for your schedule? Like some people like to do their workout earlier in the day, get it done, get it out of the way, so that they're not distracted or they're not going to skip the workout if they feel extra tired. Uh, for me, if I have a choice, I like to do my workouts mid morning. So not first thing when I wake up. Like I'm not one of these people who like to just jump out of bed and then slam a coffee and start training. I mean, I have done it, and sometimes you got to do what you got to do, but that's not my ideal scenario. I like to be awake for an hour or two, and like ideally for me, I would like to wake up, have a good breakfast, let that digest for an hour or more, and then do my training. So somewhere mid morning, after I've been awake for a couple hours, had some food in the system, then I'd be good to go. That's my ideal scenario, but ideal scenarios don't always happen. Sometimes you got to do it later in the day. Sometimes you even got to do it in the evenings. The problem with doing it in the evenings, especially if you're trying to like train and then settle down and go to bed afterwards, is the workout itself stimulates your body, like mentally, physically. You get the hormones and the endorphins and the adrenaline pumping, and it very often takes you a while after that workout to let your body unwind and settle down again. So, for example, like if I did a high intensity workout late in the evening, I'm going to be wired for a couple hours afterwards, at least. And it's going to be hard for me to settle down to go to sleep after. So I try not to do my workouts later in the evening, unless I kind of like have no other choice. Like it's either that or skip the workout. I'll probably do it later in the evening. But if I have a choice, I would rather do it earlier in the day, or at least give yourself a gap before, several hours gap before you want to go to bed. Like for people who like train after dinner, like let's just say you get home from work, you have your dinner, and then you work out, and then you're planning on going to bed like shortly after. That wouldn't work for me because my body and mind would be too stimulated from the workout that I just wouldn't be able to turn it off and go to bed right afterwards. It takes me a couple hours to unwind. And I've talked to a lot of my coaching students who are in similar situations, and that's kind of a common theme across the board. Like you just don't, it's not like a light switch where you just flick it on, flick it off as you need to, right? It takes your body a time to unwind, wind up and unwind afterwards. So you're really going to have to play around with both. And like, I would literally try both situations and see, where do you feel you're most energetic? Where do you find you get the best workout? And where does it have the least impact on your sleep habits? Doing it after work or doing it before work, right? Like try both and just see if you can find a personal preference that works for you. Because it's not a right or wrong situation here. It's you kind of have to make the best of what's available, right? And that's the challenge. I mean, I have gone through phases in my earlier days where I did do late workouts, but then I was kind of a night owl and I stayed up later. So it didn't really matter because I still had time to let myself unwind, and I had the luxury of sleeping in then the next day. So I made it work. But nowadays, I prefer to get to bed 10 p.m. Like that's the ideal time. Get up around 6 a.m. Like if I can be in bed by 10, up at 6, and get the workout done mid-morning, probably around 9 o'clock in the morning, somewhere around there, that would be like my ideal scenario for me. Right? And I just know that from trial and error and practice. But real life comes into play too. So sometimes that doesn't always happen, and you got to do the workout later in the day or squeeze it in when you can, when your schedule provides. So, you know, there's not an ideal scenario for everybody, right? That's the bottom line here. But I just wanted to kind of unpack it and give you some suggestions that hopefully you can try this out and decide for yourself what's going to be the best scenario for you. Let's see what we got there. Brian saying, I'm going to be 49 in I'm going to be 49 in May, and from 49 to 50 I want to see how far I can go. Age is motivating me. Awesome. I respect that. Yeah. I find every time you get close to an age with a 0 at the end, it's a real milestone. I know it certainly was for me. Like when I turned 40, that was like, the wake up calls. Like, okay, I'm an adult now, if you know what I mean. Like that, I'm no longer a teenager, if you will, or not, just had that attitude. If you I'm a grown up now once I hit 40, so I got to start acting like one. And it certainly was a big wake up call. And I know the same thing's going to happen when 50 rolls around. And I'm a couple years younger. I'll be 47 this fall, so I'm getting close to the next milestone year, right? The next age with a 0 at the end of it, and I'm sure I'll definitely want to have that fit over 50 physique, right? That's going to be a big milestone and a big motivator as well. So I totally appreciate where you're coming from, but again, you got to play it smart, right? You got to focus on training smarter, not necessarily harder. All right. Mike saying, I'm cutting out the junk volume. Good. Yeah, that's basically what it is. Like if you're doing too frequent of workouts, it's literally junk volume. I mean, I know it sounds counterintuitive, and a lot of people have this mindset like, hey, more is better. Like the more I work out, the better shape I'm going to get in. Not necessarily, right? It's not always about simply doing more. It's about training in a smart and efficient way so that your body can rest, recover, and grow in between those workouts and really maximize them, right? If you're looking at more, we want more consistency over the long term versus more intensity jammed into the short term, right? Consistency over the long term will beat short-term intensity every time. Who else we got joining in there? 22, the Heavy Grips logo there. Says, hello, Lee. I find bench press very hard. How can I improve? I feel a little nervous with the bar. My max is 70 kilos for 70, but I got sick, and today I barely got 60 for 5. All right. Well, that's not abnormal. I mean, anytime you have any disruption to your training, you get sick, that's going to affect your overall strength and energy all over, not just the bench press, but everywhere. And I want to just talk about that because a lot of times people think your strength is set in stone, meaning like, hey, I bench press 70 kilograms for 7 reps. That means that's my bench press. No, it meant that's what you did that day for that many reps in that situation. It doesn't mean you're going to be able to duplicate that tomorrow or the next day or next week. It's not always static. And I'll give you an example of this. Like think of your energy levels in general. Like some days you probably wake up in the morning and you're like, man, I had a great night's sleep. I feel excellent. I got jump out of bed full of energy. Woohoo, let's go. And then there's other days the alarm clock rings and you're like, oh God, I don't want to get out of bed today. Right? And you're just dragging your heels. And that's life. Like some days you got more energy, other days you don't. And that applies with the workouts as well. Some days you're going to feel strong, some days you're not. And you just have to take it in stride. And of course, you already mentioned you got sick. So, I mean, that's a big reason there. I mean, when you're sick and your immune system's weakened, your body's not going to be able to function and perform at its best. So that's to be expected. But to get to your specific question, I mean, one, how do you improve your bench press? If you're finding that you're kind of like beating your head against the wall, like you're doing the bench press week after week and it's just not going anywhere, you're kind of stuck in a rut or it's getting weaker, you want to focus on changing up the training stimulation. So I would recommend focus on other exercises besides the bench press, but exercises that are going to still strengthen the supporting muscle groups. So still train the chest, the shoulders, the triceps, the big main movers that you're doing with the bench press, but do so with others. One that I love, push-ups. If you get good at doing push-ups, that's going to carry over into a bigger bench press. Dumbbell bench press. That's another good one. Like, get stronger with dumbbell bench press. That's going to carry over to your barbell bench press. Just that type of movement in general. Like, those are two that I found very effective for myself. Push-ups and dumbbell bench presses, they carry over big time. So like, maybe that could be your primary chest exercises for the next little while. Like, maybe for the next 6 weeks, you're going to do a training phase where you prioritize dumbbell bench and push-ups as your main pressing moves, and not even worry about the barbell bench press. Like, just focus on getting stronger in those exercises. And then when you come back to the bench press, what's probably going to happen is you may have to start off a bit lighter, to get the movement pattern and get used to the exercise again. But you'll probably quickly get back to your previous personal best and then even surpass it. And that's very often what happens when you cycle through different exercises is you go through that phase. So like, you hit a plateau with one movement. Instead of just beating your head against the wall, switch to a different movement. Focus on making gains in that new exercise, that new movement pattern. Provide unique muscle stimulation. Get stronger with that. Once that one starts to plateau, then you can probably switch to another one. You might have several different exercises in your repertoire that you cycle through. And then when you come back to a previous one that you were stuck on, so like in your case, when you come back to the bench press, your first workout back will probably be like an initiation workout again. It's just getting used to the movement, getting used to the technique again. So you would purposely start off lighter. And then after a week or two, you probably be back up to your previous level, your previous personal best. And then within a week or so after that, chances are you would surpass that and make some new gains. And this is the way that advanced lifters have to train, because once you get beyond that initial newbie phase of training, the gains just don't automatically come. Like, when you're in your first year of training, especially when you're in your first 6 months of training, like, just showing up to the gym, you're going to get stronger. Like, you put an extra 5 pounds on the bench press every week, for your first several months of training. And it's just like, wow, this is awesome. The gains are just coming and coming, and I'm getting stronger. Like, I've literally seen guys like double their strength or more within their first year of training. Very common to see that. But then once they get beyond that first year, then it's like, whoa, what happened? Like, those quick, easy newbie gains aren't happening anymore. Right? What do I do now? And that's where you got to start to get creative. And that's where, you have to really focus on more advanced training strategies and not just simply showing up, because the whole eat right and exercise, just show up, be consistent. I mean, yeah, that's still important, but now you have to have some strategy and structure behind your training. And that's where it really gets to more of the advanced level. And again, this is stuff that we covered in our podcast that I'm going to be posting next week, is taking you through that journey of progressing from beginner to intermediate and then to advanced levels. But that's one strategy that you can certainly incorporate. And I would recommend giving it a shot. For the next little while, let's lay off the barbell bench press and let's focus on getting stronger with push-ups, and let's focus on getting stronger with dumbbell bench presses. And I would do higher repetitions, build up some volume, build the base level of strength and conditioning for a while. Because right now, like, you're talking about like 7 reps, 5 reps, like that's more in the low rep range. Focus on getting at least 10 plus repetitions or more per set. Now, when you're doing push-ups, hopefully you can do high reps, like 10, 15, 20, or even more push-ups. Like, do higher volume for that. For the dumbbell bench press, I would recommend doing at least sets of 10. I wouldn't go any lower than that, and really focus on just building up that base strength and that base volume. And then that will help to lay a foundation that you can build on then when you go back to the bench press to take it to the next level. All right, let's see what else we got there. AJ's got a question saying, what do you think of workouts that go about 40 to 50 minutes, 4 compound exercises, 3 sets, and 3 isolation exercises, 3 sets, full body, so you hit everything? I love it. I mean, I kind of do something similar to that myself. I mean, I like to do total body workouts most of the time. I mean, it's not always set in stone, but generally speaking, when I do a workout these days, it's not just a chest day or a back day or an arm day or a leg day or whatever. I tend to do total body, but I may have some focus and priority of what it is that I'm going to target that particular day. But I usually follow that kind of structure. Now, I may go a little longer than the 40 to 50 minutes, but that's the type of structure. I'll use a combination of compound and isolation moves. And with the exercises, the number of sets that you do really depends on how strong you are, and also depends on the exercise itself. Because with lighter isolation exercises, 3 sets might be plenty. For bigger compound exercises, especially exercises where you need progressively heavier warm-ups, you may need to go into the 5, 6, or more sets. Like I'll give you an example. Think of doing a leg press, especially for someone who's advanced and they can handle a lot of weight on the leg press. Like prime example, one of my coaching students that I'm working with now, the last time we did leg presses, I believe we worked up to 8 plates per side on the leg press machine, which is, quite heavy. That's a big leg press for most gym goers. I mean, it's not world class, pro bodybuilder or strongman caliber, but by fitness gym standards, that's a lot of weight. So we worked up to 8 plates aside on the leg press. And we started off, I think the first set we had 2 plates aside, and then we went, like 3 plates, 4 plates, 5, like literally just adding a plate per side for each set, building it up gradually, and then peaked out at 8 sets. So it was a multiple sets there. But when you're doing heavier exercises, you do need multiple progressively heavier warm-up sets. Whereas if it's an isolation exercise, you're not lifting as heavy, you don't need as many warm-up sets. And it also depends on when you're doing those sets. Like sets that are done earlier in the workout are obviously going to need more warm-ups to acclimate the muscle for that heavy stress. But by the time you get towards the middle or the end of the workout, your body is already warmed up. So you may only need like maybe even just one warm-up set before you can jump into your heavy working weight. Again, it depends on the particular exercise, but you got to factor that in there too. So I'm just saying that because I don't want you to have a hard set rule thing. Like I'm only allowed to do 3 sets or I have to do 3 sets. The number of sets is going to depend on the exercise and how heavy you're training. So that's a wild card, right? Like, and if you feel you need more warm-up sets, then do more warm-up sets. Like if you're feeling extra tight, stiff, or sore, or you just don't have the right groove, do an extra warm-up set. Like take an extra lighter set there and work that. And these days, especially the older you get, the more important this is. Like you just can't rush your workouts, right? You have to take more time to warm up and to kind of get into the groove of the exercise. And I would much rather err on doing more warm-up sets than not enough, right? I would rather expend more energy in the warm-ups and reduce the risk of injury than saying, hey, I don't want to do too many warm-ups because it might burn me out and take away some of my peak strength for my top working weight set. That's a risk I'm not willing to take at this stage of the game. I'd rather do more warm-up sets and err on the side of injury prevention versus pushing it and risking getting hurt in the process. But yeah, I mean, that's a good solid structure there for sure. Robert's saying, I've been taking longer rest periods between sets. Why is that? So there's pros and cons to both, right? I mean, it all depends on what it is you're training for, and also depends on the exercise itself. But I'll just throw out some general guidelines that you can use. For the big compound exercises, your presses, your deadlifts, your squats, leg presses, rows, those type of things, 2 to 3 minutes rest should be standard for those big, heavy compound exercises. And the heavier it is, the longer. So like if you're really pushing like heavy squats or heavy deadlifts or something, and again, heavy is relative to the individual. So don't take this the wrong way. It doesn't mean you have to be lifting 500 pounds or something. Like heavy is heavy for you. Take 3 minutes rest between those big compound exercises. For some smaller isolation moves, maybe 1 to 2 minutes rest is adequate. Like for bicep curls or lateral raises or calf raises, you might only need a minute or so between sets for those. But listen to your body. And when it comes to the strength training, I would much rather see somebody achieve muscular fatigue versus cardiovascular fatigue. So if you're getting winded and you're gasping for air, and then you're about to do your next set while you're still semi out of breath, like you're getting more into cardiovascular fatigue rather than actual muscular fatigue. So, if you're trying to build muscle and stimulate muscle, then rest long enough so that your breathing returns to normal and that you're able to physically push yourself hard for the next set, right? And again, that depends on what it is you're training for. But for general strength training workouts, for most people, that's what I would recommend. Now, if you're training for conditioning purposes and muscular endurance, the variables can change, right? Like if we're looking at an MMA fighter or a boxer or someone like that who's training and they want to improve their muscular endurance and their conditioning, there may be a time and a place to do their sets in a fatigue state where they're not allowing a full rest break in between. Like they're still semi out of breath while they're moving to the next exercise because they want to train that lactic acid system and to build up their work capacity and their durability, because that simulates what they have to do when they're in competition. That makes sense. But for most people who are just in the gym to build muscle, lose fat, and get in shape, taking adequate rest periods between sets is certainly going to help to maximize those strength training workouts. All right, what else we got there? Adolf is joining in. Could you offer a service working out with a subscriber? It would be interesting for a lot of us to pay to have a video for such an experience. Working out with a subscriber, I have done that before for sure. And I do it with my coaching students as well. But yeah, if you're in the area and you want to train, hit me up, right? Send me a private message or send me an email and we could chat about that. Right. But that's something I have done in the past. I've worked out with some of my followers, and whether they come meet me and train at the gym together, or if I'm traveling and I end up meeting up with people, I have done that. And I haven't done it a whole lot, but it is cool when we do it. And sometimes I've made videos. I have to be honest, it's something I used to do a lot more of back in the early days of the Total Fitness Bodybuilding YouTube channel. I haven't done many in recent years, but I'm not opposed to it. So if that's something you're interested in, reach out to me. Again, contact information's down in the show notes below. Reach out, have a chat. All right, let's see. Same question came through again there. What else we got there? One more come through. Oh, wait, now Philippe's got a question there. A second, guys. Does taking creatine after drinking coffee affect how the body absorbs it? Someone told me that creatine does get flushed out after drinking a cup of coffee. There was a school of thought back in the day that you don't want to consume creatine and coffee together because the idea had nothing to do with the coffee or the absorption or whatever, but creatine helps to pull water into the muscle cells and create this cell volumizing. Coffee and caffeine has a diuretic action to it and causes your body to lose water. So the idea was, well, you don't want to dehydrate your body with the coffee / caffeine while you're taking the creatine, because the creatine wants to pull water into the muscles. The coffee and the caffeine wants to excrete water as a diuretic. And, there's a bit of a controversy there. But as long as you're drinking enough water overall and that you're hydrated, it really doesn't make that much of a difference. It's not going to make any difference. So like if you take your creatine in the morning when you have your morning cup of coffee, as long as you stay adequately hydrated, it's not really going to make a difference. For me personally, I take my creatine after breakfast when I take my vitamins. So I'll get up, and I usually have a cup of coffee with my breakfast. So I'm literally taking creatine after having a coffee with my breakfast. And I've been doing that for years. You can still reap the benefits from it. It's not going to have any impact. The only thing is you just want to make sure that you're adequately hydrated so that your body can utilize not only the creatine, but all the nutrients that your body needs to absorb. So keep yourself adequately hydrated. And the key to doing that is have a water bottle with you at all times, right? So that you can sip on it frequently throughout the day. And that's a strategy I use. Like everywhere I go, you'll see me with my handy dandy water bottle. Like if I go for a drive in the car, even if I'm just out running errands, got to go over to the grocery store, go to the whatever, I take a water bottle with me in the car. When I'm at my desk, I got a water bottle with me. When I'm at the gym, I got a water bottle with me. When I go for bike rides, I got a water bottle with me. Like every time, I always have a water bottle with me. So whenever I feel thirsty, I can sip it frequently. and that helps to stay on top of the hydration. And then how I ensure that I'm adequately hydrated is when you go to the loo to do your pee, what's the color of your pee? If it's dark yellow, probably means you need to drink a bit more water. If it's light yellow or clear, you're probably good. So that's kind of like a little benchmark that you can use to gauge whether you should up the water or if you're on the right track. But as long as you're adequately hydrated, it's not going to matter if you drink coffee and consume creatine, or it's not going to matter. Right? That's the key right there. All right, let's see. What else have we got coming through there? Second, I'm just going to check some things here now. Just give me a second, guys. I'm just checking some stuff on my end here. All right, where are we to now? Second, something popped up on my screen there. I just had to deal with. All right, where was I? We got there. Mark is joining in. Hey, welcome, Mark. We did a workout today over on King Live 2025 on his channel. It says, can you explain this style of working out? Something called daily undulating periodization, DUP. Thank you so much. All right. Periodization. Well, first of all, periodization in general is just cycling your training based on different periods. And I'll give you an example of that. In the long term, you could have like a bodybuilder who's doing off-season bulking, pre-contest cutting, or an athlete who's doing off-season base training and then pre-contest or in-season competition training. Something along that. It's just where you're doing different phases with a different goal in mind during each phase. That's what periodization means, is you're periodizing your workouts. So, maybe you have a strength phase and then a conditioning phase, or, a base building phase and then a competition phase, or something along those lines. It's just different styles of training depending on what your particular goal happens to be. Right now, daily undulating periodization, I mean, that's a concept where things can change within the course of the week, like literally change daily. And, some people like to focus on different styles of training over the course of the week. So, for example, like you might have instead of having a phase where, okay, I'm going to do my strength and power phase for a few months, and then I'm going to do my conditioning phase for a few months, and then I'm going to have my competition phase for a few months. You try and almost like squeeze it all within the course of a week. So maybe like Monday and Tuesday, I'm going to do heavy training. Wednesday and Thursday, I'm going to do more conditioning training. And then on the weekends, we have competition training, for example. Like you're doing different modalities of training within the course of the week itself, right? There's a powerlifting program that utilizes that a lot. It's the West Side Barbell Method. And I really like that. And how they did it is they broke it up into max effort heavy training and then dynamic effort light explosive training. And they did that within the week. So for example, they'd had one phase where they did their heavy max effort lifts. So low reps, max effort, straining under heavy loads. And then they had another later in the week, they did a phase where they were using sub-maximal weights with very fast tempo explosive, more like almost like plyometric style, very fast and explosive movements. So you had the combination of heavy power, fast, explosive, and they combined that within the course of the week, to give you that periodization where you're building multiple aspects of strength and conditioning over the course of a short period of time, like literally within the week. It depends on the situation and what it is you're training for. I mean, that's obviously an advanced principle. And in some cases, it's very effective. Like in the case of what I mentioned, like the West Side Barbell training method, where they did the max effort and then the dynamic effort, combine that within the week, you really kind of get the best of both worlds, and they complement one another very nicely. In the sports world, it might not always be practical to do where you're combining, the different modalities in such a short period of time. Like I'll give you an example, like in the bodybuilding world, we usually have like the off-season mass building, the off-season bulking, and then the pre-contest cutting. trying to combine that in the course of a week is pointless. That wouldn't be effective at all, because you're kind of shortchanging the progress you're going to make in both situations there. But in certain sports, it is actually advantageous to try and train different modalities within the week itself, so that you're bringing up all aspects of fitness. You're bringing up the strength and the explosiveness, or the speed and the power, stuff like that. All right. So it's just another tool in the toolbox. That's what I want you to look at it as. It's another tool in the toolbox. Now, for the average person, the average gym goer who's just like, I want to go to the gym and I want to lose the gut, build muscle, and get in shape, you don't need to bog yourself down with a lot of these advanced concepts. These are things that are for the more advanced, for athletes or people who are doing very specific training for a very specific goal. For general fitness, we don't need to get tangled up in the weeds with a lot of this stuff, right? But again, you just asked to explain it, and so hopefully I kind of gave you an understanding of what it is. And if you want more information, I mean, like, you can go in on Google or Chat GPT or anywhere else and start typing this in, and I mean, they'll summarize it and probably do a better job than I did, but kind of just want to touch on it here, right? I'll be honest, like, for most of my coaching students, we don't focus on that because they're not at that level. If they're more serious or they're involved with competition, yeah, absolutely, we'll get into more specific periodization training, or as they're progressing through different phases, we'll certainly focus on that. But for most people, we just need to focus on being consistent with the basics and focus on the bigger picture, the training, the nutrition, and being consistent. Like, that's the big thing for most people, not getting bogged down with all the specifics. All right, what else we got there? I think I lost my spot there in the chat. We have Paul joining in from Europe. Welcome, Paul. Glad to have you joining in. My max push-ups is 40. All right, okay, that was a follow-up to I was talking about incorporating push-ups and dumbbell bench presses to help improve the bench press. One thing I want you to do with that, and again, we actually talked about this during our most recent podcast that I want to. This is so ironic. Like, I'm glad I actually did that podcast now, because a lot of these questions that are coming through here relate very well to what we covered. That's max push-ups is 40. You can make push-ups as hard as you can make it, to the point where 10 push-ups is brutally hard. Like, this whole idea of the number of repetitions, this is a common rookie mistake as well. Like, a lot of people just bang out reps fast and explosive, but like, if you take your time and really focus on slow and controlled, like controlling the negative, holding the pause in the bottom, muscling yourself up, holding the peak contraction at the top, and focus on the quality, like, you could make it to the point where 10 push-ups is more excruciating and more stimulating than 40 push-ups. And this is something you see in the world of advanced calisthenics and gymnastics and things like that. Like, they're not just flailing their bodies around or moving haphazardly fast and explosive. It's all about control and muscling the body up and having that body mastery of your body in space. Same with like pull-ups or any exercise. Like, if you do a slow and controlled pull-up where there's no momentum, no kipping or swinging or cheating, like, that's totally different than the swinging, kipping pull-ups that you very often see a lot of people in the gym doing. So, I mean, it's cool that you can do 40 push-ups. I mean, that's very respectable for sure, but there's still room for progress there within that. Like, you can focus on different strategies there to make that a very challenging exercise. And again, I'm going to plug that podcast again. When it comes out next week, I'll get that pumped out there. So it should be out early next week. I'm definitely going to recommend you check that out. It'll be posted up on the Total Fitness Bodybuilding YouTube channel. That's the main platform where most people tend to watch the podcasts. And I do encourage you watching them on YouTube, because I usually put visuals along with the content. So it's nice to actually watch it. But it's also posted up on the audio platform. So you can check it out on Spotify and iTunes and Amazon and different podcast platforms if you like to download them and listen to the audio, like while you're driving or while you're in the gym working out. That's usually when I listen to a lot of my podcasts, right? So educating the mind while exercising the body in the gym. Like when you see me in the gym, if I got earbuds in, it's usually not music. It's probably like a podcast or an audiobook that I'm listening to while I'm in working out. All right, let's see what else we got there. We got Barry joining in from Georgia. Welcome, Barry. Glad to have you joining in. We have Art joining in as well. Welcome. And we've got Andy joining in. And he's a member of the Muscle After 40 program. And he says, I've been using your Muscle After 40 blueprint, and I'm down to my lowest weight in 15 years. And I have visible muscle mass on my body. Thank you for your guidance. Well, Andy, thank you for sharing that, man. I mean, that's a huge win. And when I hear feedback like that, I mean, that makes all this worthwhile. It really does. You know, and that's why I do this, you know, just to hear that type of story right there. Right. I mean, you're in your lightest weight, best shape you've been in 15 years, visible muscle definition coming through. Man, like kudos to you, my friend. That's awesome. And the thing I respect about Andy is like when he came on board with the program, like he didn't dilly-dally or dick around with it. Like he just committed to the process. He came on board, he started following it, and like he participates in our group coaching calls. He participates on our, you know, our private VIP community. He's in there, he's interacting, he's keeping the open flow of communication going. Like, and he's making progress. Like he's consistent. He's good enough, and he's good enough consistently. And the results speak for themselves. So I mean, kudos to you, my friend. I love it. Right. He's going to be featured as one of our future before and after success stories. I can guarantee you that. Right. Before and after transformation in the making. Well, there's already before and after transformation, but it's just going to continue to improve, right? That's the thing. Who else we got joining in? We got Ivan joining in. Welcome. Glad to have you joining our video call here today. All right. Oh, my goodness. Look at the time. Geez, early in the chat, I was thinking, gee, this started off a little slower than I expected, but here we are. We're already up to an hour and 22 minutes. Right. And he's saying, thanks, Lee. Well, you're welcome, my friend. Thanks for joining in here. Guys, I'm going to have to get ready and clue this up because I have a lot to do on my plate, and just want to give you a heads up. So next week, there's not going to be a live video Q&A because I'm actually going to be heading to a fitness seminar in Toronto, Canada. So I'm going to be out of town next week, but we'll resume things 2 weeks from today. So little hiatus next week, but we'll be back on track the following week. And in the meantime, if you have any questions or anything that you want to elaborate on with that we covered here today, feel free to reach out to me. Down in the show notes below is my contact information if you want to drop me a line, whether you friend me up on Facebook, drop me a message through Messenger, or drop me an email. Either one is fine. And again, if you haven't already done so, make sure to subscribe so that you can stay up to date with our latest podcast episodes. Again, it's going to be on YouTube, which we're watching this through YouTube right now, so it'll be posted up there. But it's also going to be posted up on Spotify, iTunes, Amazon, all the major podcast platforms. So if you haven't already done so, follow us over on those platforms if they are your podcast platforms of choice. And I would also appreciate it if you could leave a review, like over on the Spotify or iTunes, anywhere like that. That would certainly help to spread the word and help us to reach more people and share the content. All right, guys, I'm going to get ready and clue it up. Have yourself a fantastic weekend, and I will talk to you in a couple weeks' time. And in the meantime, remember that you don't have to be perfect to make progress. You just have to be good enough and good enough consistently. And if you can do that, then you'll be moving in the right direction towards reaching your personal fitness goals. Have yourself a good one, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care. Over and out. And end the broadcast.